Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Trent. This is Rams Talk. Thanks for watching. This is another In My Car on My Lunch Break edition. I want to talk about the Lions-Rams game we had a couple days ago. Had a great time with LT at Combat Sports Talk. We hit up a bar, watched the game together, did a couple live streams on his channel. It was really good stuff. Really cool hanging out with him. Hope you guys were able to watch. I know some of you were. For all the people who are new watching this, please subscribe. For everyone who's just jumped on board, thank you so much. It has really been a fun time. And for all the legacy people out there, you guys are awesome. You guys really are engaged every time I post a video, and it's really cool. I love the back and forth with you. So let's just get into this game. I feel like I thought I learned my lesson with the Seahawks a long time ago, when we just thought, like all the Rams fans, we were like super confident, overconfident, thought we just steamroll the Seahawks. Granted, the Seahawks are a better team than the Lions, but you can't tell me in that first half against the Lions you weren't like, whoa, what's happening here? Why aren't the Rams just smoking them? And it just goes to show that no matter who the opponent is, that it's still football and anything can happen any given Sunday. It's cliche, but it is right. And the final score, 30-16, didn't really kind of, I guess, show how close the game kind of was for a while. Although I never was like really scared. It just, I feel like sometimes you gotta get, there's some rest. I feel like the bye week had some rest for Jared Goff. Let's just start with Jared Goff. He really wasn't that sharp. What can you do? I mean, that was a game where Goff was off, but the defense really stepped up. And so that was just great to see. Defense played great, but Goff, he just was airmailing some throws, just wasn't super crisp. Robert Woods had a great game and kind of, I feel, bailed Goff out a couple times, making some really amazing catches on balls that just weren't put in the right place. And that's fine. QBs have off days. Look at Drew Brees against the Cowboys. He had an off day too. So, and Goff had a better game than Brees did. So, 200 yards, interception, touchdown, probably kind of bumped him out of MVP consideration, but that's okay. We got two other guys that are right there in the mix. While we're on the offensive side of the ball, let's say just moved right to Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley, 5.7 yards per carry. He had his longest carry of the season at 36 yards, I think. 36 yards, 132 rushing yards. So, I mean, Gurley, and I have Gurley in fantasy. I think I mentioned that. And at the end of the game, when he ran and then just didn't decide to go in the end zone, like part of me was happy that we have a smart football player, complete football player who did that so the Lions could burn a timeout. And then he eventually scored, so it was fine. But part of me was like, no, I need this. It didn't matter. I lost by 2 points. So, but I mean, that's the second time he did that against Green Bay, where he held up. He could have run and rushed it in for a TD, but he made them use their time. So, what can you say about Todd Gurley? He was great in pass blocking. I think, I keep harping on that, but that's what makes him a complete every down back. There was a sack. I want to say Aaron Donald had a sack Corey Littleton had a sack where Theo Riddick did not pick up the block, and Corey Littleton went right around him and sacked Matthew Stafford. And those are plays. Those are game-changing plays where Todd Gurley's always picking up the blitz or the pass blocking. So Todd Gurley, great game. Good to see him break off a couple big runs. At the beginning of the game, he was trying to run through the middle on the left side, but I think the Rams adjusted and he started going through the right side with Austin Blythe. Austin Blythe, you watched the Todd Gurley 12-yard TD run that he had to the right side. Austin Blythe just threw Damon Snacks Harrison to the ground. And it's talk about being coached up. He was released by the Colts, and he was supposed to be a backup to Jamon Brown, and now he's a top 3 guard in the NFL. And you notice that the Rams really were running to the right side with Austin Blythe there, so they can depend on him, and he opened some holes for Gurley. That was great stuff. Brandin Cooks reached 1,000 yards, so it was third team in 3 years with 1,000 yards. He doesn't have all the TDs. I think he has 3. But, he's a big game guy, and he'll have like 1,300 yards by the end of the season, and that's a great first-round pick as far as I'm concerned, and he's great. He's a great character guy, and this team has a lot of intangibles. That's why I really like this team. Aside from the talent, they like every guy in that locker room is like bought in, and they're just good dudes. So way to go, Brandin Cooks. Robert Woods. Now, Robert Woods is the 9th player in NFL history to have 11 consecutive games of 67 or more yards, reception yards. He's been a model of consistency, and like I said before, he really bailed Jared Goff out on some terrible throws. And he even went up and tried to get that one where he got knocked down by Diggs, like that deep ball down the left side, and it looked like a vicious hit, but then he was like twisting in air and kind of exposed, and he was just pushed, but it looked like a worse hit than it was. But he'll go for that. He'll go over the middle. He'll put his body on the line. And he even had that one rush, which was pretty good. So Robert Woods, great game. Injury update, Malcolm Brown has a clavicle issue. It's probably doubtful that he's going to play. So Rams fans, it looks like we'll get some John Kelly or Justin Davis action against the Bears. So I think that's the only notable injury from the Rams, which sucks because Malcolm Brown is good. And I like him. Now moving over to the other side of the ball, the Rams defense. While the Rams are on offense, the Lions defense, I mentioned the run game was going to be stopping the run game for them. It was kind of their strength. And at the beginning of the game, they were really holding Gurley in check a little bit. But the Rams wore them down. And I think once the Rams started going to the outside a little bit more instead of like right up the gut, where their two defensive tackles are, and they kind of spread them out a little bit, that's when they started finding their success in the running game. And so, in the passing game, their linebackers weren't much. It was interesting not to see the tight ends get involved more, but, just the Rams didn't really have like a flow on offense and a sync on offense. And, it happens, and I'm glad it happened against the Lions. Hopefully they kind of like got out of that, like the letdown from the Chiefs and the bye week and all that stuff, and maybe hopefully they're fired up. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, it's just all Aaron Donald. It's all Aaron Donald. That guy, he's in beast mode, but he and Fowler and Suh all played really, really well. Fowler and Donald had combined 8 tackles for a loss, 5 for Donald, 3 for Fowler. They had 3 sacks combined, 2 for Donald, 1 for Fowler, and 10 tackles combined. And Fowler, I feel like, is really growing into his role on this team, and he was always in the backfield. So I think he's really, really stepping up. But Aaron Donald, that guy's just shedding double teams. He's shedding double teams, and then he's doing that. Like, you ever seen a great white just thrust out of the water with like a seal in its mouth? That's kind of like how Aaron Donald is when he just jumps at the quarterback and strips the ball and tackles him. In fact, Aaron Donald, all of his 4 forced fumbles have led to Rams touchdowns. So, and the game, when he did that to Stafford, the game was 16-13. And the Lions had the ball. And it was kind of like, whoa, here we go. And Donald basically changed the game. He was a defensive player, defensive tackle, that play, that strip sack and fumble changed the game. And that was it. The Rams never looked back. That's when Gurley ran it in, and then they just never looked back. One thing that really was noteworthy, I felt like in the start of the second half for the Lions offense, was they started the second half with an onside kick. Then they had a play where, I think it was Ellington, tried to throw the ball. And then they went down and threw a touchdown to their left tackle. Now, that was all desperation. That's the Lions in at halftime going like, hey, even though the score is tight, the Rams are going to wake up. And we don't have much. And we got to do everything in the book. That was like textbook Rams under Jeff Fisher, where, special teams were really the Rams offense. And trick plays. And the fact that they were throwing the entire kitchen sink at the Rams basically said it all. The Rams held them to 102 yards rushing, 61 yards to LeGarrette Blount. So, they really held the running game in check. It's not that dynamic of a running game, kind of easy to do. Kenny Golladay had 50 yards receiving, not a lot. In fact, the highest or the best receiver was the tight end, Toilolo. I mean, it's because the Rams defensively in the middle of the field, I thought the linebackers were not that great. Mark Barron, it's kind of becoming more and more evident that he probably won't be back next year. And Littleton had kind of an off game, even though he had that sack, but the middle of the field was exposed for the Rams. And I really do feel like this is where they need to start kicking the tires on Micah Kaiser and get him some reps. I mean, he doesn't have to play a lot, but start getting him some reps. But Ndamakung Suh had 6 tackles in that game, I think his high of the season, and I feel like he really came prepared to play his old team. John Johnson had 11 tackles, another great game from John Johnson. But Aaron Donald, I mean, the guy is just a beast. We all know that. And he is at 16.5 sacks. He needs 6 more sacks in 4 games to tie the all-time single season record. So he can definitely get 7. I mean, they're facing the Cardinals and the Niners, for heaven's sake. And I think against the Niners, what do you have, like 3 or 4 sacks before? So I kind of feel like he's trending in that direction where he's going to get the all-time record. And next week will be a really, really good defensive matchup between, to see how he performs and Khalil Mack performs. And I'll have more on that game in a couple of days. The last thing I want to point out is, and I was talking to LT about this, but like Johnny Hekker is like the most random case of a punter where like I would consider buying his jersey. So when we weren't listening to it because we were at a bar and the sound wasn't on, but I was like, why is he pointing when Zuerlein made that kick? And he was pointing because there were 12 Lions on the field. And the fact that like, he's doing that while still holding a ball, while Zuerlein is kicking and Zuerlein isn't thrown off by it, means that like they probably practiced that. But it also just goes to show that like Hekker also had a really good punt in the game. Not only is he just great at actually kicking the ball, but he's super smart and he's on it. And I'm so happy that Johnny Hekker is our punter. Kind of crazy to say, but so yeah, that's pretty much it. Kind of an ugly win, but just we shouldn't take any team for granted, except for the 49ers and potentially the Cardinals at the end of the year. I'll take the 49ers for granted. They're terrible. God awful. But other than that, they grinded it out, 11-1. The Bears, the biggest test, then Philly, and then after that, it's easy street. So, hope everyone enjoyed the game. And thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And if you haven't, please do so right there. And, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at RealLARamsTalk. That's kind of where I'm at every day responding to things. So, watch some of my old videos. And, keep an eye out. Aqib Talib, real quick. Aqib Talib, the reason why I didn't play that much, he was on like a snap count. So it wasn't because he was injured, but they're just easing him back. But anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching, and go Rams.